I need to get this story told before it totally slips my memory. This is my third attempt to record this one. And if you're wondering why I'm recording stories, part of the reason is my dad was a storyteller, and he had some epic stories, and we'd have none of them recorded. I think I have a partial one somewhere on my phone, maybe. And so I thought I would record some of my stories. And as stories seem to, as it seems to be, a lot of our stories happen when we're younger, for whatever reason. But this is I think it's a pretty cool story. It has a lot of the aspects that make a good story, a mysterious vibe, sense of danger, that sort of thing. But anyway, here we go. I think we might have had one child when this happened, so I was in my late 20s. I'm not positive about that, but anyway, I worked in a warehouse, and we worked a lot of 12-hour days and a lot of overtime, and we had sick days that you could take. They gave us eight days a year, and I would burn through mine fairly quickly with mental health days, because when you work that much, you're financing your days off, even if you didn't get paid, because you had so many hours. So I'm still trying to I can't think of the word. I'm trying to convince you that it was okay that I called in sick, even though I wasn't. So I went trout fishing on this particular day, and it was in the fall. Savings time had started, so it was darker early. I went up about 8 in the morning probably, and it was a cool day, nice fall day. And I fished all day, like 6-7 hours. I didn't catch anything. Back then I had the patience to fish all day, and even if not catch anything, I would keep trying, and I just loved it. Well, anyway, I in the morning when I pulled up to this particular spot in Bellevue, Iowa, I parked on this, they built this parking pad. It was just gravel and dirt, and they built the dirt up and then had gravel, and it was large enough to hold about 10 cars, and there was nobody there when I got there, because it's not really stocking time of the year, so only the hardcores would be up there at this particular time, and I was a hardcore. So I pulled my Chevy pickup, and I backed it up fairly close to the edge of the pad, and well, then I fished all day, and I remember I put my parking brake on, which is something I really hadn't hardly ever done in that truck. It's a automatic, so you don't have to, park it with the parking brake on. But anyway, when I went to leave probably 3 in the afternoon, it was still light, I got in my truck, and my truck would not go forward. And I pulled the parking brake, and the brakes were locked. And it was like, holy cats, here I'm in the middle of nowhere, there's nobody there. There's a house like a mile down the road, and the guy's name was Irwin P. Irwin, which stuck in my brain, Irwin. Anyway, my truck will not go forward. I could back up a little bit, and to be honest, I don't know how I did this, but I ended up spinning the tire in the gravel so much that it went flat. I mean, dead flat. So evidently I had one wheel that would work and one wheel that was locked. And like I said before, the details on this one are fuzzy, but it's coming back to me. So that's what happened. I could back up, but I could not pull forward because one tire was locked. I think it was the driver's side rear. So Anyway, I spun that tire flat because, I was young, got frustrated, and just spun the tires, and dumbass me, it went flat. So anyway, so there I'm there with a flat tire, and I had this spare tire holder underneath the pickup. And I'll be damned if I could get it to, it was rusted, so I couldn't even get at my spare tire. And so I'm working on this, and there's a guy who drove by. I'm heading into town, and then about half hour later, he was coming back, and I waved at him when he went by, and he was driving back, and he saw me, so he pulled over, and somehow he helped me get that spare tire with. He had a truck and he had a hammer, and we beat the crap out of it, and we got the spare tire. So we took the frozen tire off, and I couldn't. The brake was still locked, and so we had the exposed drum, and so we beat on it with the sledge. I mean, if you can't fix it, hit it with a hammer, and it actually did free it up a bit. And so we put the tire back on. I thanked him, and was on my way. I'd say it was probably about 4 o'clock. Cell phones didn't exist, so I couldn't call Janet and tell her what was going on. Well, anyway, I decided, because I could smell smoky fire smells, that I would go stop at my friend in Bellevue who lived there. And we had a beer, of course, and he gave me some water to pour on it to kind of keep it cool, which was really a great fix. So by this time it's like 5-ish, 5:30-ish, so it's starting to get dark. So I'm gonna make the hour drive home, and so I head on my way. I think I had a beer between my legs because that's what we did back in the day. And so I'm driving, and by this time it's pitch black dark. I'm in the country. I'm on a paved road, and the brake is starting to malfunction a lot. I pulled over and I poured my beer on it. Looking at it now, it's funny, but it was kind of freaky because it was dark and there was nobody on this road. And so I drove some more, but the brake started really acting up, or the tire brake drum started acting up. So I pulled over. I don't know why, because I couldn't drive anymore. I couldn't call anybody, and I was in the middle of this black, dark night road. It's like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? When all of a sudden, in my rearview mirror, there's truck lights, like pulling right behind me. So I get out of my truck, and the person got out of their truck, and he walked up to me. I walked up to him, and he was huge. I mean, he was 6'5" at least, and he was big. I mean, I'm 6 foot, $190 at this time. This guy was 6'5", 240, solid, and he had black hair, and he asked me what the problem was. And I told him, I didn't tell him about dumping beer on it and that stuff. I just said my brakes locked up. And so anyway, he said, well, follow me the best you can, and we'll see what we can do. My dad's house has a phone. Evidently, I mentioned I need to call my wife because she's gonna be worried sick. So anyway, we left the blacktop road and got on this windy gravel road for 20 minutes, if that. And so we ended up going down this house lane, a small house lane, and there was a house off to the one side and a not a big garage, but a garage. And he got out of his truck and told me to pull into the garage like any serial killer would do to hide the vehicle. I did it, and I pulled in his garage. And he got out, and he walked in, and I got out, and he said, as he started to work on my truck, he jacked it up and took the tire off, and he said, why don't you go talk to my dad in the house? And so this guy was basically fixing my truck at 7:30 11:30 at night on a Tuesday in the fall to a person he didn't even know. And so when I left him, he was yanking on the drum, trying to get the drum off to fix the brake. So I go in the house, and I don't remember the conversation I had with his very elderly father. I'm going to say he was probably 80-ish, which I'm not 30. And he was a very nice man. That's what I remember. He said I could use his phone. And so I called Janet to tell her what was going on. She wasn't very happy with me, which, I understand. She was worried, and it was dark, and she hadn't heard from me because there was no cell phones. So I was there probably about an hour. And like I said, I wish I could remember the interaction I had with the elderly gentleman. He was very nice. But one thing that really stands out to me is there was a wall they had in this little tiny house with Jesus pictures, 10 of them, different Jesus pics. And I was a Christian at the time, and obviously they were, or he was, and obviously his son was. I mean, to be that kind. But I don't remember our conversation, but the son came in and said, I got your truck fixed. And I didn't have any money, or I didn't have anything, and he didn't want it anyway. But the one thing that really stands out to me is, it kind of chokes me up. When I got in my truck and I said goodbye, I was driving, and I looked at my rear view mirror, and the old man was underneath their porch light, because it's jet black out in the country, but just his in the porch light, and he was waving at me, and he waved the entire time I drove away. So, fast forward a week later, that really impacted me to not be afraid to help people. I think I pulled up that week and helped a guy on the side of the road with something. I seem to recall that. But anyway, I decided I was going to try to find that house because I fished in that area quite a bit, and there was actually a stream called Brush Creek that I was very close to, so I kind of knew the area. So I drove up there the next Saturday with a gift, and I turned where I remembered we turned, and I took the route that I thought I took. And I looked around, went back out on the main highway, took another route. I looked and looked for like a half hour. I could never find that house. I remember the mailbox was at the top of the lane, and I never could find it. Now, I don't know what you believe, but you know what I believe if you're watching this. I believe in God, and I believe in his sovereignty. And so I've always thought that this was God's intervention, at least God intervening with influencing this mountain of a man to help me. But at the most, he could have been an angel. I mean, scripture says that we entertain angels without even knowing it. And just the kindness and the how I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. And I don't think I prayed. I probably cussed. But he just pulled up behind me, and then he exhibited this tremendous kindness and love. And then the Jesus wall and the kind old man that waved at me the whole time as I was driving up the lane. Like I said, it's divine intervention, at least. And I wanted to get this story shared before I forget any more of it. So there's my my divine intervention story. I have another one that's shorter that I'll pass on some other time. God bless.